I knew something was about to go wrong the second I saw that smile on her face. It looked warm on the surface, polite even, but underneath it carried a sharpness I had learned to recognize over the years. It was the kind of smile that came right before a quiet insult, the kind that left a mark long after the moment passed. And this time, that smile was aimed at my wife. My name is Daniel Carter, and I am 75 years old. I have lived a long life, built on hard work, long highways, and the kind of sacrifices that don't get talked about much. My wife, Margaret, has been beside me through all of it. We raised one son, Ethan, and for most of his life, I believed we had done it right. We taught him respect, kindness, and what it meant to stand by family. But that night, sitting in a crowded restaurant across from him, I started to wonder where we had gone wrong. It was Ethan's birthday, and he had invited us to dinner at a place called Riverside Table. It was one of those modern restaurants where the menu felt more like poetry than food, and the prices made you double-check you were reading correctly. Margaret had insisted on coming, even though her arthritis had been bothering her all week. She spent extra time getting ready, carefully choosing her dress and applying the lipstick she only wore on special occasions. She said she wouldn't miss her son's birthday for anything, and I believed her. When we walked in, Ethan waved us over from a booth near the back. Sitting beside him was his wife, Allison, already sipping a fancy drink with some kind of herb sticking out of it. Margaret squeezed my hand as we made our way over, moving a little slower than she used to, but still determined. I helped her into the booth, and for a moment, I hoped maybe I had been wrong about that smile. Ethan barely looked up from his phone as we sat down. He muttered a quick greeting, then went right back to scrolling. It stung more than I expected. I remembered the boy who used to run to the door when I came home from work, who used to wait up just to tell me about his day. That boy felt very far away in that moment. Allison greeted us with a bright voice that sounded a little too rehearsed. She mentioned they had already ordered appetizers and hoped we didn't mind. Margaret, always polite, smiled and said it was perfectly fine. She wished Ethan a happy birthday, and he leaned over to give her a half-hearted hug before making a joke about getting older. I tried to keep the mood light, telling him he was still young, but something already
When the
felt
waiter
off.
came,
Margaret quietly chose the simplest item on the menu. I noticed it right away, even if no one else did. She had always been careful with money, even now. I ordered something modest as well, nothing too expensive, nothing that would make anyone uncomfortable. Allison, on the other hand, ordered without hesitation, adding extras like it was nothing. Then it happened. She leaned closer to Ethan, lowering her voice just enough to pretend it was private, but not enough to actually keep it from being heard. Her words cut through the air clearly. "We are not paying for her." For a second, I thought maybe I had misunderstood. But the way her eyes flicked toward Margaret told me everything. My chest tightened, and I felt a surge of anger rise so quickly it almost took my breath away. I looked at my son, waiting for him to react. Waiting for him to say something, anything, that would defend his mother. But he didn't. He shifted slightly, uncomfortable, but he stayed silent. That silence hurt more than her words ever could. Margaret stiffened beside me. I could feel it in the way her hand tensed against the table. She had heard it too. She opened her mouth like she might say something, but before she could, Allison suddenly changed the subject, loudly announcing that the appetizers had arrived, as if nothing had happened. I watched my wife pick up a single fry and take a small bite, her movements careful and controlled. She was pretending, trying to act like everything was normal, but I knew her better than anyone. I could see the hurt behind her eyes. I knew exactly where this was coming from. A few weeks earlier, Margaret had gently suggested that maybe Ethan and Allison should slow down on their spending. They had been talking about buying another vacation home, even though they had been complaining about money. Margaret had only offered practical advice, the same kind she had always given, but Allison had taken it as an insult. "Not everyone wants to live a simple life," she had said back then, with that same smile. We had lived modestly our whole lives. We stayed in the same house for decades, drove older cars, and saved wherever we could. But we had made sure our son never went without. We paid for his education, helped him when he struggled, and supported him every step of the way. And now, somehow, we were being treated like a burden. Dinner continued, but the atmosphere had changed. Allison talked endlessly about their upcoming vacation, their renovation plans, and the expensive things she wanted to buy. Ethan barely engaged, occasionally nodding while still glued to his phone. Margaret barely ate, pushing her food around her plate more than actually eating it. I sat there, listening, watching, feeling something inside me slowly harden. 40 years of work, of sacrifice, of putting family first, and this was what it had come to. My wife being quietly humiliated at her own son's birthday dinner. When the waiter came to clear the plates and asked about dessert, Allison eagerly reached for the menu. That was when I decided I had had enough. I told them we needed to leave, saying Margaret wasn't feeling well. She looked at me, confused, but I gently squeezed her hand, and she understood. Allison barely reacted, offering a casual goodbye that felt empty. Before we stood up, I reached for my wallet and told them I would take care of our part of the bill. Ethan started to protest, but I cut him off. I paid for our meals and left a generous tip, making sure there was no question about us covering our share. Then I stood up and looked directly at my son. I told him something my own father had once told me, that you can judge a person by how they treat those who have nothing to offer them. I reminded him that we had given him everything we could, not because we expected anything in return, but because that is what family does. I told him I had heard what his wife said, and I had seen him say nothing. His face changed, and for the first time that night, he looked fully present. I reminded him of the nights his mother stayed awake when he was sick, the extra hours I worked when money was tight, the times we helped him without hesitation when he needed it most. Margaret was crying quietly beside me, but she stood tall. I told him love is not one-sided, and right now, it didn't feel like it was coming back to us. The restaurant had gone quiet, and I knew people were watching, but I didn't care. I wished him a happy birthday, then told him to think about what his mother's gift meant compared to whatever fear had led to this moment. We left without another word. Outside, the cold air hit us, and Margaret held onto my arm, her body trembling. She asked me if we had just lost our son. I didn't have an answer. All I knew was that I couldn't stand by and let her be treated that way. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything in my head, wondering if I had gone too far or not far enough. Then my phone buzzed. It was a message from Ethan asking if he could come by the next day. When he arrived, he looked exhausted. He sat at our kitchen table, the same one where we had shared so many moments over the years, and he apologized. Not just with words, but with a sincerity I hadn't seen in a long time. He admitted things had changed, that he had been avoiding problems in his marriage instead of facing them. He said they had argued after we left, and for once, he had stood his ground. Margaret reached for his hand before he even finished speaking. That is who she is. She forgives before most people even finish apologizing. He told us he had worn the sweater she made him that morning, and that it meant more to him than anything else. We talked for hours, about respect, about boundaries, about what family really means. It wasn't a perfect ending, and I knew there would be more challenges ahead, but it was a start. When he left, he thanked us for not giving up on him. As I stood there watching him drive away, Margaret leaned into me and asked if he would be okay. I told her I believed we had raised him right. Sometimes people lose their way, but that doesn't mean they are gone forever. She smiled, a real smile this time, and in that moment, I felt something settle inside me. Whatever came next, we would face it together, just like we always had.